Hi, this is Max Air 29. I have here my Stampede 4x4, and I'm going to just talk about a simple battery compartment modification I made. Everyone's aware of the stock setup here, and I am running this Turnigy 5200 milliamp battery, and I have here a Gen Ace 5000 milliamp hour 2S, filled 2S lipos. You can see there is, kind of hacked into both of these batteries, but there's a considerable height difference between the two. So this battery here does not fit with the stock setup. I have considered going to 3S lipo, and rather than trying to use the two different sizes and then getting the one that can take the higher batteries, the taller batteries, I just thought I would use Velcro straps. So there's a lot of different Velcro straps you can get. Offna sells one 21037 for their Hyper 10 TT. Those are about the size of these. These are made by Align. They're for a helicopter. I had to cut them and sew them back together to make them the right length. So you can kind of just go to your hobby store or whatever and see if you can find something that works. I use some of this sheet metal. It's like approximately 1-inch strips that I found at a construction site where I work. I do electrical work. These are for hanging ducts. My hobby store, Remote Control Hobbies, and Ace Hardware sells brass colored ones, and they're about the same thickness, 20 something gauge, 22 gauge, around that thickness. You can see how pliable it is, but it's still fairly strong. And I took a piece. This stuff here is nice because you can just bend it with pliers, like so. So what I've done is I bent a piece, I took out this, and I took a little spacer. I just happened to use the part I cut off of a VXL speed controller, the little part that holds the screw. I didn't need it, or just any spacer for the shaft cover. There's a little, it's probably a 1/4 inch or so gap you'll need to fill in just to take the strain off of that plastic tab that holds it down there. I put that in there and put a screw back. And I bent this piece in. I drilled a hole in the back and just put a tie wrap to hold it back there. I drilled a hole with a battery post. They had the hole for the body clip was there. I took that out, put just a 3mm screw in there. I used Velcro, just some old cheap Velcro I had as a spacer underneath the bar. You can kind of see down in there. You could use whatever you want as a spacer. Velcro, same size as the Velcro that I'm using, so I thought that'd be a good spacer for that. And it's not really strong enough to kind of, well, this stuff wasn't strong enough to hold that battery down just the way I drive, so maybe some really strong Velcro, you wouldn't need to screw it down. And then once I did that, I can put pretty much any battery I want in here. Strap down my my balancing port plug so I don't have to worry about that thing flopping around. Boom. Hold any battery I want now. 2S, and here's a 4S lipo, and not that I run that in here, but just to show that it's a little bit harder to get in with this place down there. But if you want to run 4S lipo with the appropriate motor and speed controller combo, a 4S lipo fits. So that is a simple modification you can do. The brass sheet metal part pieces you can buy at the hardware store or your hobby store. It's like $2.99, and these Velcro straps were like $5. And you're talking about a modification to fit any battery you'd ever want to run in this, as long as the length of the battery fits, for under $10. That's not bad. So that's my tip that I have for this, if anyone's interested. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy. Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention that. How I cut this was with 10 snips. Cuts fairly easily with these. These are 10 snips. You can get them at any Home Depot hardware store. They're about 10 bucks. Maybe you could find someone that has some if you just want to do this once. Anyway, they're just kind of a nice thing to have around the house anyways. If you're a kid living at home, maybe your dad has some laying around, you can ask him if you can borrow them. Maybe a neighbor has some or whatever. But they're not a bad, these are right angled ones. They make one, the yellow handled ones are straight cuts. These ones here are better for cutting curves to the right, I believe, and they make a green that's cut to the left for doing rounded cuts. So, 10 snips, a vise if you have it, different kinds of pliers. Obviously the square heads of pliers, the easier they're going to do it. You can also just do it with regular slip joint pliers that pretty much everybody has at their house. You can see that bends really easily. And so anyway, sorry about, you probably figured it out, but 10 snips will cut this sheet metal. And sheet metal is something that's cheap and easy to get just about anywhere. So, thank you.